Panorama has been told by sources about poor practices at the lab. It's January, and I'm going undercover to investigate.
Hi, how's it going? Oh, thank you.
I'm a science graduate with lab experience. I've had 4.5 days training, and I'm being paid £13.57 an hour as a lab technician.
All right, well, good luck.
PCR test is so sensitive, it can detect the slightest trace of coronavirus. So it's essential there's no contamination.
Oh, look at that gloopy.
Some of the samples are quite thick and gloopy, and the machine is dragging them across what's supposed to be a clean plate.
Oh, did you see that?
If a gloopy sample is positive and it contaminates the plate, it could mean people being told they're positive when they're not, having to self-isolate when they don't need to.
I think it was just a bit gloopy. Oh, there's another one. Oh. Had a lot on this one. Look at that gloopy boy.
It looks like there could be contamination to me, but this technician who's training me on the machine doesn't seem to think it's a problem.
One of like the pipette tips sort of like dripped as it was going across. I couldn't really tell where it went.
If it goes over the plate, then you better like start again.
Do most people not?
A lot of people, like, if they see it, they'll like pause it and like wipe it off.
Technicians wipe off the gloopy samples with their gloves or a tissue.
Terrible. Beyond terrible. Very surprised that it's been allowed to get to this low level.
What you're seeing here is just absolutely crazy. It's crazy. That there is almost zero question that this would lead to contamination. The amount of virus and genetic material that is required to create a positive is absolutely minuscule. So that action of touching it and then moving on to the next and touching that, every time there's a point of contact like that, there's potential for contamination. As soon as you see that, just stop the system, find out what is going on, because there's no point in carrying on with those samples because the chance of contamination is just so high.
The lab says operators are trained to stop the process run in progress, clean down the system, and start the run again from scratch. There's another problem. I also see the test swabs stick to the machine's pipettes. My colleagues put their hand in the machine to push the swabs back down. Again, it feels like a contamination risk, so I ask my trainer what to do.
I think a swab carried across.
Oh, alright. You can just like pick it off the tip, or you can just like knock it back in the tube. But it's not really clear, as long as it doesn't go on the plate.
The sticky swabs sometimes fall across other people's samples.
What can we do?
I see my colleagues handle swabs a lot.
Oh yeah, what just happened? Was it fine?
Yeah, it just went back into the test.
Oh, it just fell back in.
I mean, this is
This is disgusting.
This is the bit that just perhaps shocks me just more than anything else that I've seen. If that solution has got a full infection in there of millions of particles and you start bouncing this around, naturally little droplets are going to spray off in all different directions and they're going to go into all the neighbouring tubes. This is not okay.
Back when the lab opened, swabs were removed from the tubes before samples went through the machine. But the lab says it was time-consuming and laborious, and trials it carried out showed leaving swabs in the tubes is safe and carries less contamination risk than removing them by hand. Our experts disagree.
They're doing something which borders on criminal in a lab. This is about as disgusting as I have ever seen. You're going to have false positives everywhere. So all these people are going to be told that they have COVID when they haven't.
The lab says its training makes clear operators must pause the system to manually intervene. If contamination is suspected, the run must be stopped, the system cleaned down, and a new run started from scratch. After each person's test is completed, results are checked by these scientists. They're responsible for quality control. This shows a plate of 93 results. The orange X's are inconclusive results. This many suggests contamination.
What do the X's mean?
X's mean that's it's garbage.
Oh, wow. How did so many get contaminated, do you think? Because it looks like there's only 2 true positives.
That's a question I'm asking. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah, so at the beginning, she played for nice and pretty. By 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, it feels like it again. By the time the clock comes around, you see massive, half of the plate is garbage. So everything that comes out of the lab is garbage. And we're just trying to work around it so that the management can get what they want. But they want to say to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, we produce 70,000 results every day. Now they're looking for numbers. Like they need us to produce like 70,000 results every day.
It's much better to have less numbers going through, but of higher quality, than hitting numbers that are meaningless, really. Let's face it, you know, if none of those results were any good whatsoever out of the 70,000, do you call it 70,000 or do you call it 0?
In all, I speak to 3 scientists at length, from my team and 2 others, whose job it is to check the quality of results. They each show me plates they think are contaminated. One says management wants to improve things, but 2 say every day hundreds of results are on plates they think are contaminated and should be retested.
Each of those should either have a clear positive or a clear negative result on it that tells you what is going on in that sample. It just shouldn't be happening. If this happened once in a blue moon, well, that's life. But as a standard, no.
This scientist says he feels under pressure to simply declare the orange results void. If your result is void, you have to get another test, and that could mean waiting longer to find out if you have the virus or not. He thinks any plate with so many orange results, potentially caused by contamination, should be retested. Instead, he says the negative results seen here marked green and the positive results seen here marked red are released.
Even if it's half of the plate, they just want us to stop turning up the samples for you and release them. But from a clinical perspective, we should actually ask for the results, but that's sort of the process.
Do you think that's a good idea, or do you reckon it would be better to rerun it?
If there's no point in looking at from a political point of view, clinical person, or from a scientific point of view, it's going to fully rerun.
So would you have any confidence in the positives on that plate?
No, is the straight answer to that. If you've got that level of contamination on the plate which shows as a positive, how do you know the positives are positive?
The lab says it doesn't pressure staff, and its sample void rate is as good or better than other substantial testing centres in the country. It says its test positivity rate closely tracks the average for the UK, providing reassurance its results are robust and trustworthy. It says there may have been isolated mistakes by individual staff, Milton Keynes can do around 70,000 a day. By February, each team of 2 is told to sort 8 lots of 93 samples every hour. The lab says it's essential people get results quickly, and that staff can work at that pace regardless of how many samples actually arrive on any given day.
Do you find it easy to do all the checks and stuff while making the targets?
To hit 8, not really, because you need to check. This is correct, you need to check if it's not leaking, then you can cut it, So all of this, we can do max 6, we can't do 8 per hour, as hard as we try,
Each sample and the bag it arrives in should have a barcode, and we're supposed to check that they match. It's how we can be sure the results get sent to the right people.
In training, they told us to match the barcodes, right? I don't know if they did that with you, but they told us to make sure this barcode and this barcode are the same.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're going to sit down and do this many samples now, there's no way you can double check that every time.
Yeah, you can't.
It's not feasible.
What, you don't think would you not meet target?
I mean, I don't think so.
What we should also be looking out for is sample tubes arriving without barcodes on them. Otherwise, they could get lost in the system.
Have you ever done it on shift where you properly checked everything?
First shift, that's why.
Oh, you did the first shift?
First shift, I mean, not even then, probably like maybe the first hour or 2. And then I just looked at everyone else, and everyone else was opening and shoving things in. So I was like, all right, no one's doing anything.
After 4 shifts opening bags, I moved to a new section. And it's not long before we have a tube that doesn't seem to have a barcode.
I'm so bullshit that it doesn't have a barcode.
Yeah.
The thing is though, most of the time, when you're looking at a barcode, the barcode is on the bag. So it's like a waste of the sample. So we could have...
Oh, you could have actually tracked it.
But it looks like nobody noticed the barcode was missing before they threw the bag away.
Now, the UK's biggest testing lab has been hit by an outbreak of coronavirus.
It's being reported a number of scientists at the centre in Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire have been affected.
3 months before that outbreak, the health and safety executive had warned that workers here were being put at risk by insufficient cleaning and social distancing.
We only started wearing masks like in November.
Really? Why'd they start?
We had like an outbreak in the lab.
How many people got it?
Actually like 10 in time.
10 in November?
Yeah, and then like 10 in December.
Other people test positive too, while I'm here in January and February. The lab says it's improved its safety standards and is meeting HSE guidelines. But the lab's social distancing rules are widely ignored.